Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second day. And I wanted to start by saying that it is the Education for Practice Institute's mission to enhance and advance practice-based education through scholarship and research. And I think it's really important to scholarly explore what works well and what doesn't work in practice-based education. And I think so far we haven't really talked very much about the research aspect of practice-based education, and I hope that we are going to have a bit of a discussion about that this morning. So I want to explore these three questions with you this morning and look at what is good research and what is practice-based education, and hence what is good research into practice-based education. I also hope to show that researching practice-based education is contextually, politically and culturally positioned. And if we went around the room and asked everybody, what do you think is good research into practice-based education, I'm sure we're coming up with more than one criteria. So there is a diversity of ideas and judgments around what is good research in practice-based education. So after having said that, really, what is good research? I think it depends. Depends on government agendas, interests of funding bodies, journal ranking, and also whose interests should we serve with our research. So really, good research is a judgment. It's a judgment call. But I don't want to frustrate you and just say, well, it all depends, all up for grabs. There are some criteria, and in the literature there is sort of common agreement that there are three key criteria for good research in education. And they are, it applies sound method, it has something useful to say, and has been properly reviewed, peer reviewed. So sound method. Doesn't matter what method you're using, whether it's empirical, analytical, whether it's ethnomethodology, ethnography, grounded theory, or whatever you want it to call, as long as the method is appropriate for the phenomenon under study. Also, the chosen approach needs to be appropriate for the phenomenon under study. You need to have a coherent research design, and research questions, the design and findings have to match. If there is a mismatch, if you're asking the wrong kind of question for a different kind of phenomenon and you're finding different sort of answers, then there is a muddle up of that. Second, needs to have something useful to say. It makes a contribution to knowledge, or it creates new practices. It adds to the current debate, or it offers solutions to current problems. So I'm sort of trying to allude that research can have, or in practice-based education should have, some usefulness for the industry, for the practitioners, and for the students. Thirdly, it has to be peer-reviewed. There needs to be some public scrutiny, needs to be judged and recognized by others, and has to relate somehow to some public interest. So, what is good research? There is a divided debate and about what matters and what is useful and what is a useful agenda. Values and politics play into this debate a fair bit, and researchers also are positioned within colleagues, within funding bodies and research centers. I think what is useful to consider, though, is that you could think of the endpoint users. What do they want to know? How can you help them to advance and enhance practice-based education? And hence, what kind of questions can you pose? I think a lot of people are intrigued and like a research piece because the kind of questions they address. Now I want to look at the CSU's research plan, which has just been released, and look at it, what it has to say, how it speaks to practice-based education. And it says that research is of high quality and increased quantity. So there you can see the political agenda, increased quantity. Create solution for the benefit of our communities. That is squarely practice-based education, I think. It's ethical and sustainable. I think that goes for all research. Informs disciplines and the profession. Again, that really speaks to us. It informs the university's course profile and supports skill development. So I think on a whole we can be quite happy with such a research plan. And it says clearly, create new knowledge and practice. So we are looking at practice as being part of research products. It promotes also research training. So doctoral research programs, mentoring colleagues to do research is in that, and it supports a research culture. So I think this plan really alludes to a scholarship of research and not just doing a research project, and that's the only thing you do in research. So that gives a nice context for us at CSU and others outside of CSU. I invite you to look at your research plans in your university. It helps you when you want to argue for doing research or getting funding if you say, look, we're doing exactly what's here in the strategic plan. As practice-based education scholars, we claim that practice can make a contribution to knowledge and to research. You can turn experience into knowledge, we can generate knowledge from practice, and we can build theory from practice. And as we've heard yesterday and last week, really practice knowledge can be all these kinds of ways of knowing. So there is a wide playing field for researching practice-based education. And we can look at workplaces as sites of research and learning, as creating new practices and restructuring systems and trying to turning organizations into learning organizations, which is of great benefit for our students. Now, practice-based education, I looked through the literature and it was just too hard to tell you these are the key agendas at the moment in practice-based education. There is so much around and it's on all fronts. But I prepared this slide based on the ASEAN conference in Perth last year, where we had a pre-conference research think tank. And out of that came that there are 4 fields of research for practice-based education, and here they are on the board. And I hope that you can probably slot your research into practice-based education under one of those fields. And if not, then ASEAN has omitted one. When you research something, you need to declare, you need to define and describe what you're researching. And we've been trying to declare and describe and define what practice-based education is. And we'll hear much more about that later on from Joy as well. So I don't want to dwell long on it. And I try to summarize it under these 3 points: preparing students for future roles, being willing to act and lead, and relating to others well. So what aspects of practice-based education do you want to explore? I think it's helpful if you consider the goals of your program, the purpose, why are you doing it? And here I offer a list of reasons why you're doing it, which can help you focus your research under those. Learn to enhance well-being of others in society, prepare for work realities, socialize into a profession, integrate theory and practice, develop reflective and professional practice, engage with the complex and unpredictable world of future practice, and simply offer more than just training. So you can see that practice-based education and researching it is a complex field. And I'd like to put forward that researching practice-based education as a practice is a scholarly, collective activity. You cannot do it on your own with your desktop. It's situated in human practice. It should be helpful, answers questions, solves problems, and it has to connect with the social world. And it is politically and culturally positioned. Now, you might all have also other agendas while you're doing practice-based education research, and that's important too. If you do a doctoral thesis, you know, you want to pass and get the license to research afterwards. That's slightly different when you want to get a grant. And again, that differs if you need to up your publication record, or if you do a consultancy. So you have to think about those purposes of researching as well. Practice-based education research as a performance, when you're performance managed, people look at it, often looks at publishing, obtaining grants, but really on a more practical and social level, it's about advancing learning theory, leading and mentoring others, and developing practice and learning. I think that really encompasses the scholarship in researching practice-based education. And I hear a lot of people say, you know, I have to research in my discipline, or I have to publish in my discipline journals. So I've come up with a little list of journals where you can at least publish your research methodologies in education. And there's an A rank in there. And if you look for journals to publish in, there is a list of journals in education that definitely publish cooperative education, internship, practice-based education research, but your discipline journals are starting to also publish those kind of research projects, and it's no longer really an excuse, I would say. You can always be a good scholar in your discipline and change education in your discipline profoundly through this kind of research. So what's good research in practice-based education? To sum up, I think it constructs research for a specific purpose. It understands practice as something broader than technical expertise, and it adopts a view of education that is broader than just learning a skill. Thank you very much.